Jail was not made for everyone, but it was made for you. Oh yeah, if you're the average American, black, white, male, female, as long as you're not amongst the uber wealthy and the corporate execs of this world who lobby to the government, oh yeah, then jail was completely designed for you. You don't believe me? Don't take my word for it. They'll tell you they so.
It is a case that has everything except an arrest. And that struck some as odd because in an 80-page document of court papers, the bank admits to almost going out of its way to act as a financial clearinghouse for international pariahs and drug dealers. HSBC officials listed Mexico in its lowest risk category for money laundering during a 4-year period when Mexican drug cartels were funneling over $700 billion through the bank. U.S. Attorney Loretta Lynch.
The investigation revealed that staggering amounts of cash, hundreds of thousands of U.S. dollars daily, were being deposited into HSBC Mexico using boxes specially made to fit through their tellers' windows to speed the transactions.
And it wasn't just the drug cartels that benefited from what prosecutors called the bank's willful failure to report suspicious activity. Assistant Attorney General Lanny Brewer.
HSBC is paying a heavy price for its conduct. And under the terms of today's agreement, if the bank fails to comply with this agreement in any way at all, we, of course, in the government reserve the right to prosecute the bank.
Under the terms of today's settlement, nobody at HSBC will face criminal charges. Notre Dame professor Jimmy Guruli investigated money laundering cases for the Treasury Department.
We're not talking about mere negligence. We're talking about a criminal scheme that was adopted as a policy of HSBC to look the other way with regard to suspicious transactions involving money laundering.
Some would say that the message is, if you break all the laws you can until you get caught, you may have to pay a lot of money, but you're not going to go to jail.
Did you just hear what the prosecutor said? He said that they caught them engaging in criminal activity with the most powerful drug cartels in the world, and he's giving them an opportunity to comply. 5 years to comply. And if they didn't, only then will he take steps to bring criminal charges against them. When they arrested me for selling drugs, nobody said, hey man, we know you're selling drugs. We're going to give you a little time to get yourself together. And if you don't, then we're going to prosecute you criminally. They never said that to me. Why wasn't that offered to me? Why wasn't that offered to you? Given the opportunity to get your house in order and look for a better way. They didn't give me that opportunity. What they did was throw me in prison for 5 years and said, we don't give a damn, pick up the pieces. Why is compassion used for the uber wealthy and not used for the common citizens who make up this country? They would give them a pass and give them a chance to correct behaviors. But they would throw you in jail. I know why. Maybe it's because jail was designed for you.
So as a bank with the power of a country, you're presented with two very different paths on how to operate. Path number 1, you properly vet every client and refuse to let criminals use your bank, thus leaving money on the table. Or you can take path number 2. You happily work with terrorists, drug traffickers, illegal diamond dealers, and other sketchy characters because they are your biggest customers. They deposit giant sums of money, which you can then use to lend out, charge transaction fees on to make even more money. So HSBC, which path do you take?
HSBC's compliance history, as examined today, is unacceptable.
You hear politicians always talking about crime, the people who commit crime and the streets and all this and all that. Why don't they ever speak on that crime that happens at that top level, that affects masses, hundreds to millions of American citizens each and every day? But the crime on this lower level, desperate actions committed by desperate people, they speak on it as if they are the most heinous on earth. Why is that? Maybe it's because that's their job. Maybe it's because they've been paid to do just that. Protect the ones at the top and throw myself and yourself to the wolves.
When Joaquin El Chapo Guzman was operating the world's largest drug cartel out of Sinaloa, Mexico, he was doing most of his banking through Europe's largest bank, HSBC. American authorities discovered that the Sinaloa cartel moved $881 million through HSBC accounts, as bank officials turned a blind eye to the illegality.
These people can do whatever they want to us and receive pass after pass after pass. And a man who's hungry breaks into a store to steal some food, and he's thrown in the dungeon and the pits of the most lowliest jails that you can ever find. And every day we allow it. No wonder they do it to us. We shut up and take it.
Here's how HSBC and Mexican cartels will help each other. First, drug traffickers would take their dirty money to Mexico, where the HSBC branch would happily process the millions without question. Then HSBC Mexico would send the money off to a correspondent branch in the US, who would route the funds to the ultimate destination. All of this was possible because they knew the transactions wouldn't get flagged. HSBC was building a reputation with cartel lords as the place to launder money, but bank officials completely ignored it because they were rolling in profits. But this couldn't go on forever without their crimes being noticed. It's honestly kind of funny how brazen they were with this. Once this was uncovered, the United States knew it was time to take action against HSBC, or at least that's what everyone thought was going to happen.
As part of its resolution of these charges, HSBC has agreed to forfeit $1.256 billion for a total recovery of over $1.9 billion.
After years of shady dealings, everything came to a head with HSBC in 2012. They were called to a hearing with the US Senate, where the Senate said most of the $7 billion in banknotes HSBC transferred from Mexico to the US came from drug dealing. They also stated that HSBC went out of its way to bypass the automated systems that block transactions with terrorists, drug lords, and countries on America's naughty list, like hiding $19.4 billion worth of transactions with Iran. By December 2012, U.S. District Attorney Loretta Lynch announced that criminal charges have been filed against HSBC for laundering at least $881 million for El Chapo's cartel and other Mexican drug cartels. All this meant that justice was about to be served, right? Wrong. Immediately after announcing the charges, the DA explains that HSBC will receive a Deferred Prosecution Agreement, or DPA, which is kind of like putting a giant corporation on probation, a slap on the wrist. HSBC admitted to helping Mexican drug cartels funnel money, and the DPA required HSBC to pay a fine of $1.9 billion, the largest penalty of its kind that a bank had ever received. But in reality, $1.9 billion was equal to 5 weeks of the bank's profit. HSBC just got off the hook for working with Mexican drug cartels without a single executive getting arrested.
You just heard the attorney say that they have been told that they must pay almost $2 billion, with a B, billion dollars in fines for the error of their ways. But it should also be noted, as the video brought out, that was only 5 weeks of their yearly profit. They gave up 5 weeks of their yearly profit in order to manage the financial empire of the biggest drug cartels on earth. That isn't a fine. I'm from the streets. That's called taking a cut. One more thing to note. Law enforcement. If I was a law enforcement officer, the first thing I would say after hearing about such a heinous crime on such a high level, I would have been the first to speak out and say, how the hell can you do something like this? Every day my men and women go out and risk their lives to stop low-level drug dealers, when if you guys would have just enforced the law and arrested these people and held them accountable, you could have wiped out the whole financial structure of the biggest cartels on earth in one swoop. You would have protected the lives of my men and women, and you would have made these communities that I protect and serve so much safer. Federal, state, local task force, sheriff departments, police departments on every level. None of them said anything. Why not? Maybe it's because they know they aren't the ones who are meant to go to jail. Jail was not designed for them. Jail was designed for me and you. So what you gonna do about it?